Yo guys, it's your friend from ninjavibeZ, back again with another awesome Naruto What-If story that'll blow your mind. What if Naruto unleashed the Demon King's bloodline and formed a mighty harem with Kyuubi, Mei, Samui, and Kyuki Part 1 Koyuki and Yugo? And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start. The fanfic. A small boy that had just turned 9 was desperately running for his life in a vast forest area. He had spiky blonde hair and 3 whisker marks on both cheeks. With a couple of wild tigers on his trail, he could only cry to himself as he ran deeper into the forest. When his birthday came, he would always be attacked, tortured, and humiliated by the villagers. Well, that's what they did every day, but it was more extreme on his birthdays, but not to this extent. Never to this extent. On this particular day, they decided to knock him out and bring him to the one area where everybody thought he will finally die. The Forest of Death, those hypocritical bastards. They're the demons, not me. All his life, he was subjugated to inhumane torture. All because he was this supposed demon. Every day they would scream at him while they bashed away at his small stature, reprimanding him while they chose to be ignorant of their own demonic deeds. The only thing that kept him from committing suicide was the Sandaime Hokage, the Ichiokus, and the strange comforting voice in his head that would soothe him after every beating while whispering comforting things in his head, healing every injury, every scar, every maim on his body. They were probably the only existences in this world that cared for him and didn't see him as a monster just because of those lies. But love came from very few sources for him. And there were times when he really came close to jumping off the Hokage monument. But that voice, it would always prevent him from doing so. Why? What did I do to deserve this? Was the only thing that could come to his mind. As the animals shortened the distance between them, hidden village of Konoha. Finally, after several years of recovery, I've finally regained enough strength to meet him. But damn, not enough to take him with me and protect him. That'll take a few more years. I wonder how his life has been. Wearing those typical brown cloak and hood, a person was slowly walking down a nearly empty alleyway. A series of loud laughter nearby was heard. Choosing to ignore it, the person prepared to walk away. That is until he heard one particular piece of tidbit. Hee, that demon is probably dead by now. Good riddance, too. It's about time someone got rid of that monster. Hey, you got that right. There's a party that is going to be hosted in celebration of his death. Privately, of course. Wouldn't want the Hokage to know about this right now. It's about time we got rid of that Kyuubi brat. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind passed by as he dashed straight at the 2 civilians. Knocking out the closest one, he slammed the other into a nearby tree, choking his neck with a tight grip. To say that the conscious civilian was shocked was an understatement. What did you do to the boy? Unable to form coherent words, the hooded man's eyes turned red as he whispered something incoherent. This served to earn a painful yell from the civilian. I'll ask you one more time. What happened to the boy, the foe for the forest, the Forest of Death? We knocked him out and left him there. Eyes rolled at the back of his head. He whispered the location in between pained gasps. Now that the man's usefulness was gone, he did the one thing any skilled ninja would. Tie up the loose end. Can't have any evidence or sightings of him now, could he? Die, burning up, in a mass of black flames. He left the civilians there to die, just like they did the boy. Please, Nar, stay safe until I arrive. I will not fail you as I did your mother, my sister. Forest of Death, ah. yelling out in pain as one tiger leapt at him and trapped him under its paw, suffering immensely from the claws digging into his chest. Everything just started to darken. He was losing consciousness. Is this how it's supposed to end? After 9 years of endless suffering, this is all I have to show for it. To die here without accomplishing anything while those bastards at home celebrate. Do you wish for power? Do you want to live? Great. Definitely hallucinating now. Could have sworn he had just heard a female voice out of nowhere. But he couldn't help but reply back in desperation. Why, yes, ... Then so be it. I'll lend you a tiny fraction of my power for now. I can't have you die on me. Not yet. Not until you have the chance to prove to me that you are worthy. Out of nowhere, his body was surrounded with red aura. His whisker marks grew bigger while his nails and teeth grew sharper. Sensing the ominous aura emitting from the boy, even the tigers had to whimper in fear in the presence of such killer intent. Intent that made theirs comparable to a toddler, meaning none at all, bearing his really sharp canines. He opened it one moment and in the next. ROR. It took only a few moments, but 9-year-old Uzumaki Naruto was trembling at the sight before him. One moment he was about to meet his end by a pack of hungry tigers. And then darkness. But during that darkness, somehow through some miracle, they all lay before him, shredded limb from limb into a bloody mess, utterly lifeless. Huffing and completely exhausted, he was about to collapse again, back into the cold, silent darkness, waiting helplessly for more dangerous beats to claim his life. Right before he saw the figure of one man, but was unable to make out anything other than his red hair. Pretty red hair was Naruto's last thought before he collapsed once more, but this time into the arms of said red-haired stranger. Despicable. Utterly despicable. Minato and Kasha would be rolling in their graves if they knew of this. Is this how Konoha has grown after all these years? They are not worthy of the Uzumaki's chosen one. In the distance, although the distance between them was far, with his keen eyes, the redhead was able to sight a couple of jonin approaching their position. Damn, they must be looking for Naruto. Damn, if only I had enough strength, I would have already taken him out of the village. Bobbing his head down in order to whisper down to the unconscious Uzumaki. I know you cannot hear this, but please give me 6 years. I promise I will come back for you with my friend and apprentice. Hopefully the village will not have killed you by then. Leaping onto the nearest branch, he looked back onto the boy one more time before he would leap off into the distance. May the blessing of our ancestor Rakudo Sen guide you to strength. Where am I? Am I dead? Opening his eyes, Nar could still only see huge trees surrounding him. At first he thought he was still in the forest of death, but the atmosphere it seemed almost peaceful but with a certain edge to it. Lying in front of a standard outdoor cabin, he stood up slowly, only fixating his gaze on that particular cabin. Yep. No way am I still in that forest. The atmosphere just seemed to warm unlike the one in that cold, deadly forest. Not to mention, there are less carnivorous creatures there. Without any sign of civilization nearby, he figured that he should take refuge in it, seeing as he had no method to navigate his way out of the forest. He went up to the door and knocked on it, taking a certain interest in the paper seal that was imprinted on it. It was really tempting to touch it and take it off for some reason. The door opened once, he knocked it once, and as soon as he took a peep inside, he lay there utterly still and breathless, unable to move an inch at the breathtaking sight before him. A young teenage girl of immense, transcendent beauty lay on the couch before him, with crimson-slitted eyes and a devilish grin that just Screamed of imminent danger, yet was so alluring, so captivating, so beautiful. Her hair also a crimson red. If the red hair he saw on that man before was pretty, the crimson hair he saw right now was beyond beautiful. There simply was no word to describe her without insult. Especially that creamy white smooth skin that was loosely protected by that silver kimono decorated by imprints of a bouquet of crimson roses that surrounded most of her kimono, but revealed a generous amount of her huge cleavage, big asunades or maze. Although it was not as tight as other kimono, I like to call them kimonos instead of yukatas, it could still somehow emphasize those perfect curves, those perfect thighs that were revealed by the lower section of her kimono, which were separated by an upside V-cut on both sides. Snapped out of his daze by that really sexy giggle, he started to remember. This is the girl I keep on seeing briefly in my dreams. The one that kept on comforting me. I see you've remembered. It has been quite a while since your last visit, though a brief visit it was, she stated with an amused tone. It was satisfying to see that no matter how many times he came to visit, he was always captivated by her beauty. Although she couldn't blame him since he could barely remember any of them. Too happy to think straight, he rushed up to one of his favorite people and hugged her. It's been so long. I thought that you had left. Sniffing, he could barely hold back his tears as he lay his head on her chest. I would never do that to you, Nar. Don't worry, I will always be with you. Although she shape-shifted her body to be that of a 15-year-old girl, she shaped it so that it would best appeal to Nar, and that the moment that he reached 15, her body would begin to grow at the same pace as him. Petting him on the head, she comforted him, like she always did, earning a small moan from the boy as he closed his eyes and enjoyed the warm, sensual feeling of her hands, smiling as he did so. He absolutely missed this feeling, opening his eyes once again, cheery as he did so. Really? He asked in an extremely nervous voice. As if this peaceful moment was extremely fragile, as if it was about to be taken away from him the moment he made one move. This action, however, only earned the kitsen's adoration as she could only think of one thing as she looked at that adorable face. He's so cute. He is definitely Higoromo-sama's descendant. Their expressions are so similar that it's simply adorable. Really. But I wonder if you would feel the same if you knew who I was. This was the moment of the truth. His reply would become the deciding factor on whether or not he has inherited one of Higoromo-sama's three gifts, his personality, his will. To her surprise, he only shook his head repeatedly as he stared right at her with those bright blue eyes. Nope. You're always nice to me, so I don't really care. It doesn't matter if you're some kind of monster. If you have a kind personality, then you're fine in my books. Tehi smiling sleepily at his own answer. Just like his ancestor, although Higoromo was a demon king, he was honestly as kind as a human. It was why a lot of demons looked down on him. But the warmth he emitted, the compassion, the personality he had was like a bright comforting light in the cold abyss, which resulted in a lot of other demons flocking to him. And as a result, his companions were most loyal, just like herself. He had always preferred kindness over strength. Luckily for him, he had both, and to see that same preference in the boy before her was most comforting. It was a lot longer than expected, but finally a shimmer of hope. Perhaps this is the one after all. Perhaps your prophecy will come true after all. Although he answered her, she was not yet fully convinced. But until he was ready, well, I guess I can maintain the secret for a little while longer to see how he progresses. Okay, then I guess I don't need to tell you Who I am then, she teased. It was always fun to see him pout. Ah, that's so mean. Well, at least tell me your name. Very well. My name is Kuromi. Don't worry. In due time, I will tell you who I am. Promise. Holding out his pinky as he waited for her to hold out her own. Promise. Intertwining hers with his as she swore. An oath to her current gatekeeper and quite possibly her future master. Anyway, Kuromi-chan isn't really lonely here, not being able to talk with people other than me. Yes, although she did not want to socialism with those despicable humans, she did miss civilization once in a while. It was incredibly boring in here. Then can I help? Yes, but not now. In your current state, you are far too weak. Why? Sighing inwardly, she continued. You see that seal over there? He nodded, prompting her to continue. You have to rip it off the door in order to free me, but normally you would die. He stood up and walked to the door as he touched the seal, making her realize what he was about to do, which forced her to walk up to him and stop him. What were you trying to do? Freeing you. He tilted his head in confusion as if what he was trying to do was the most obvious thing. Didn't you hear the dying part? Yes, so it's not fair for you to be trapped here while I'm out there free. Surprised at his blunt answer and more so when he wasn't at least bit hesitant at the prospect of dying, she could not help but compare him with his ancestor even more. An idiot, but a kind idiot just like him. Reaching out one hand, she cupped his cheeks as he rested on her palms. She waited a moment to plan things out. Reaching a conclusion, she continued, okay, I said. Normally people would die, but in your case, you're special. So, in order to free me, without dying, you must train under my guidance so that when the time comes, you are strong enough to bear the extraction. Remember Kusha, she didn't die after the extraction, but she was extremely tired. Excited at the positive news, he beamed. Really? Yes, but only when you're strong enough. And right now, you aren't exactly what I'd call strong. Crestfallen for a moment. A fierce, determined look shone at his face as he beamed at her. Then I'll train really, really hard to become really strong. Whatever it takes, I'll free you. Then we'll be able to be together forever. And I won't stop there. No, I'll be the strongest in world so that I can be worthy of you. Kuromi looked at him with a happy smile and giggled. Life was certainly taking a new turn in her life. A turn that matched the one Hager Romo had caused when he was alive. This was also like hitting 4 birds with one stone. He would become strong while her teachings would prevent him from being corrupted by the biased teachings of those in the academy. Assuming that they decided to teach him properly at all. And not to mention, she could test his potential over the years to see if he inherited her former master's abilities and strength, and if she was lucky, then he would release her seal. Then I hope you're ready for my training of hell. I smiling at him really creepily. His determination faltered at that really, really scary smile as he regained his composure and nodded repeatedly. Believe it. Oh, Nar before you go. Happy 9th birthday, Naron. Yuto Naru too. Nar. The yell of someone old woke the boy up as he groggy lifted himself from the boy, rubbing his eyes in order to see his surroundings properly. An old man wearing what looked like the cage robes sat next to his bed, smiling at him. It was Serbi Herzan. Hey Gigi, what happened? You took a beating. That's what. You were on death's door when my ninja came upon you. What happened to you? You know exactly what happened. Looking down onto his bed sheets, the look in his eyes told the old cage everything he needed to know. Yes, I know. Then why can't you help defend myself? This will keep on continuing until I learn how to defend myself, and I'm too young to enter the academy. Please, please train me. Although he disguised his request as a plea to defend himself, it was actually only to grow strong to fulfill his promise to her. But hey, two birds with one stone. Looking at that desperate look in his eyes, the old man, the one renowned as the god of shinobi, succumbed to the near unstoppable power of puppy Dagatsu. All right, then, but don't expect my training to be easy. Come to training ground 13 tomorrow and I'll teach you how to control your chakra. Then we'll see how you'll progress after that. Completely forgetting that he was on a hospital bed, he jumped up and down on it with sheer excitement, earning a small chuckle from the man. Short on time, he had to return to his office to face his longtime arch nemesis, paperwork. Standing up, he approached the door. But before he exited the room, he turned around and looked at Nar one more time. That reminds me, happy 9th birthday, Nar, earning a huge smile from the boy. It has been 4 years since he made that promise. Now, at the age of 13, he was becoming increasingly aware of how hard it was to live alone after he told Gigi that he didn't need any help with living his life. But it was worth it. He learned how to survive. He hunted in the forest of death nearly every day and now it was a cakewalk to live there. But hunting became increasingly boring as time passed and he eventually set his sights on the criminal underworld of Konoha, especially since his rarely used apartment was located there. Not to mention that the thugs there would occasionally extort money from Ayame's father and their business was occasionally disturbed by them. But that stopped 3 years ago when he overtook the criminal society by storm and eventually became the big bag mysterious boss of every known crime syndicate, local gangs, and any other yakuza that existed in the Land of Fire. 15-year-old Ikyaku Ayame was walking down an isolated path towards Naruto's apartment, fully intent on bringing some groceries and his 3 bowls of his favorite ramen. After she had heard that he was now living independently, she had decided to be his personal delivery girl and would bring him food supplies every now and then. She was a bit scared at first after she had that his new apartment was located in a place where criminals like to operate, but he had comforted her worries by saying that she would be safe. He even insisted on paying her, although she refused adamantly at first. He eventually won out with that extremely adorable pout. She was hesitant during her first few visits. But Naruto so far was right as she hadn't been attacked once to her disbelief. On the contrary, the local criminals that were currently keeping tabs on her didn't have any ill intent at all. No, they were sent by their boss Naruto to protect her if she was ever in danger during her occasional visits. Everyone in this part of town knew that Nar treated the ramen waitress like his big sister and knew that if she ever came to harm, the perpetrators would pay dearly. Just like the last example. Everyone shuddered when Naruto made an example of them right out in public. When he had captured the ones who had harmed the Ikyaku's business 5 years ago, when he had turned to crime in order to make ends meet, it took only a few months to overthrow every Yakuza boss. But eventually he killed all of them and placed his most loyal companions at the top of the food chain who replaced the previous bosses and ran every part of the underworld in the Land of Fire in his stead, unifying the Yakuza, a feat previously thought impossible but was kept secret. For the next 3 years, he would take time off his insane, near-suicidal training regime to watch over his private empire to teach low-time thugs on how to survive properly, giving them money to start businesses in his part of town. Most of them becoming very successful and eternally grateful towards Nar. Things improved immensely from the supervision of Their big boss and the new Yakuza bosses. They knew he was the youngest boss to ever live, but they also knew that he was extremely cunning and improved the red light district living standards by miles, much to the civilian councils and Hogue's amazement, since the red light district soon became a very popular part of Konoha. But they were well aware that crime still exists, just in a much more subtle fashion. Most of the crimes involving business owners who had wronged their boss in the past, they respected him immensely. So there was hardly any worries about anyone harming her. But better safe than sorry, because everyone knew that Nar was scary as hell when someone pissed him off. Knock knock knock. Nar underscore, are you in there? Waiting patiently, she could several excited footsteps heading towards the door. She giggled at this standard reaction every time she made her presence known to Naro, who was somehow always present. During her occasional surprise visits, she had the spare keys, obviously, but somehow he always knew when she was heading towards his apartment to drop off supplies and make conversation with him. Opening the door, before her was a handsome, muscular, and taller than average 12-year-old Utsuaki Naruto, who was soaked in half fresh from a shower from the look of things. But God, was his chest so addicting to stare at? Blushing obviously, she held out the supplies as she said in embarrassed voice, "Hey, Naruto, here's some ingredients for dinner and your favorite ramen." Amused at her reaction, he replied in a sly tone, "Thanks, Ayame Enshin. Want to join me in the shower?" Slapping him on top of his head, she could only stutter at that perverted invitation. And no way, pervert. I'm only here to give you your food. You did pay for a year of delivery after all. Ah, yeah, thanks. I'll make sure to come visit and eat sometime. Let me finish drying myself. Come wait in the living room. We can catch up. It has been a while since we've last talked. You've been quite busy, haven't you? Yep, busier than ever, although I don't know why. Entering his apartment, she waited on the couch, visibly eager for their enjoyable conversations. Huff, huff, huff. Come on, Nar, you can do better than that. 12-year-old Naruto Uzumaki was now training vigorously in Training Ground 13. For the past 3 years, he would train every single day while he would produce a shadow clone that would take care of his apartment. The healing factor that he had mysteriously had ever since birth would make sure that he wouldn't ever be permanently crippled, although he would be incapacitated sometimes due to sheer exhaustion. To the Serbi's genuine concern, he never knew why the boy would push himself to this extent. But, to Nar, every single passing moment was invaluable towards fulfilling his promise. Every single thing that his adoptive grandfather had taught him was absorbed like a sponge. Well, everything except history and how to produce a normal academic clone, which was apparently vital in the Janine exam. But the old man assured him that any type of clone would do. It took a while to notice, since the first stages of training involved chakra control. But when he found out that Nar was a stamina freak, that prompted him to advance Naruto's training towards jutsu and eventually nature transformation. To his surprise, Nar was a natural genius and was able to pick up the concepts pretty easily if you ignore his still substandard control of his chakra. But the man couldn't blame the boys since they were extremely high. But instead of fine-tuning his chakra control, Nar approached learning Enjutsu by adopting the phrase learning how to run before you can walk, and learned most A-ranked jutsu pretty easily after he stole some scrolls from the Hogue's personal stash. Even the scroll of forbidden seals had been a fortunate prize for him. The Hokage reprimanded him when Nar came clean, but clearly forgot his anger when Naruto used a Mukujutsu, which shocked the hell out of The old man and shaved off a few years when he eventually learned that Nar had a natural affinity for all elements and was able to mix all of them to produce advanced nature jutsu. Only few were publicly known to be capable of this feat, and that was the Rakudo Sinan and himself. But Hazen refrained from informing the boy. He didn't want to alarm the world of this yet, and so refrained the boy from ever showcasing his full skills, in which the boy agreed after he heard the Hogue's reason. But though his mastery of all 5 natures was superb and surpassed Jonin level, he was still a boy whose chakra reserves were still growing, no matter how immense they may be already, which prevented the boy from constantly spamming advanced Enjutsu in their daily training spars. But he was 12, and the old man could sense how rapidly his reserves were expanding, which prompted the man to shudder every time he thought of how strong the boy would be when he became an adult. Even now, the boy was strong enough to pose a somewhat decent challenge. Not to mention that the boy had learned of the secret to the shadow clone Enjutsu and trained with almost 500 clones every day, though he could only use 20 at the start, which was still extremely impressive at that age. The only things that had eluded him was Fu and Jutsu and a similar jutsu to his father's, the Rinnegan, which was still in the first stage of development. He had no idea how the boy stumbled upon it, but he just said that he had always dreamed of creating a ball of chakra to hit or shoot at people within. Although Minato never intended to shoot people with it, the boy had the right idea when it came to developing it. Though a few drops of sweat would fall down his head every time he saw the boy try to condense the imperfect ball of chakra and throw it, which exploded near his clone, which he used to test out experimental jutsu as a guinea pig. Right now he was sparring with the boy with the same intensity as a life and death battle. Spars were always extreme with him, though he was beating him as usual, albeit with some level of difficulty. Hey, damn stubborn Uzwakus. It has to have come from his mother. Alright, Nar, you can take a 5-minute break and we will return to doing 200 push-ups and then 20 laps around the training ground, while carrying a boulder of my choosing. That'll give me some time to regain my strength and hopefully enough time to finish the new Ica Ica Paradise. I hear there has been talk of a movie adaptation starring Yuki Fujika's. Well done, Jiraiya. You've made me proud. And God bless the boy for telling me the secret formula to defeating paperwork. The long days of sitting at that stupid desk are finally over. God bless. Shadow clones. A Gigi, you've got a really lyric smile on your face, and you've got drool on your face, too. Only now realizing that he was daydreaming, he wiped off the drool and shook his head rapidly and proceeded to convince the boy to train by himself while he would indulge himself with the novel. It was the weekends and Naruto had enough time to train and rest before he would approach the week of the Genin exams. Jerry, you better get that movie adaptation or there will be hell to pay. It was in the middle of the day when the old man would stop his training and shoo him off in favor of reading that stupid perverted novel. Damn, so boring. I wonder if I should get more training in. It's not like Gigi has anything better to do now that I told him how to use shadow clones to do his paperwork for him. Damn the author of that dumb, perverted novel. Over in the distance in some faraway hot springs, a Lyris geyser, who was spying on the girls now soaking themselves in said hot springs, sneezed and wondered who was talking about him. Eat pervert. Get him, girls. Oh, damn the Gaki. Who's talking about me? Were his last words before he was subjugated to the torture of several furious maidens for what would be hours on end. This also caused said Gaki to sneeze and wonder who was talking about him. As he walked in a random direction, following wherever the wind would take him today. In his musings, he would reminisce about how the last 7 years had treated him. All in all, they were pretty good. To focused on training in a private area did wonders for him, and he was no longer subjugated to the tortures of the civilian population less. They would bother to look for him in the red lights district and risk being caught by the local thugs. In the words of the Naris, no, it was way too troublesome for them. He was pretty persistent when it came to training and improved immensely under the guidance of the one known as the god of shinobi. His most favorite technique was manipulating chakra to coat every fiber of his body in order to strengthen it immensely. It took a while, but he could soon destroy really big boulders with one punch. That was probably the only useful thing he could do with chakra manipulation. That didn't require precision or finesse. Tree walking and water walking were a pain to do considering his chakra reserves. But apparently that required a lot of chakra. Which was funny because he could coat his entire body with a lot of chakra for an entire day before he could feel even a tiny bit of fatigue, and that other ninjas, even most jonin, had difficulty even maintaining that feat for a couple of minutes. His second favorite raw chakra manipulating technique was the Rinnegan, which Kuromi taught him to do one night during one of his many visits to her realm. She didn't tell him how she knew of it, but it was really useful. He had so many ideas on how to use it. One of them on being how to shoot from far away. Hitting opponents with a big ball of chakra wasn't exactly subtle, as Gigi had already shown him. He even wanted to test the idea of mixing one of his favorite nature chakras with the Rinnegan, but both ideas would explode in his clone's face when he formed it. But it was a work in progress so far because it was extremely hard to condense raw chakra in his case. He also stumbled onto Fu and Jutsu one time and became highly interested because seriously nobody tampers with a high-level seal such as the one on his stomach without paying some serious consequences, as he eventually found out in one book and out on the field when he tried to create a new seal of his own. But seal writing quickly became one of his favorite pastimes, and seeing the side effects explode in his clone's face was very amusing. But he did make serious breakthroughs now and then. The problem was being quick thinking enough to use them in the battlefield. Well, fast enough to use at least one of them without being hit in the face beforehand. No, he needed enough experience in order to do that, something that was scarce in peacetime. But hey, when it came to training, Fu and Jutsu was highly effective, especially for workouts and muscle training. Resistance seals were very useful and put heavy strain on his body, forcing his body to grow muscles really early for someone his age. His figure was one that was immensely appreciated and often gawked at by the girls in the red light district and former prostitutes who he had helped escape from the industry and had built their own businesses with his help and funding. Oh well, guess I should just go explore outside the village. He wouldn't mind. It's his fault for ditching me. And anyway, it's about time I got to know a bit of the outside world. Time for a new adventure. Naro, I wouldn't recommend it. Huh, oh, hey, Hiromi-chan. I thought you were asleep. I was until I heard your thoughts about sneaking out of the village. Your genin exams are in 2 days. You might miss it. Hey, no worries. I'll come back by midnight at most. Don't worry. It's just a little exploration outside the village. Quote, ... I don't know. Nothing's really ever simple with you, Narutkin. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Nothing, she slightly replied. The cheekiness in that reply obviously evident. Fine, but promise you'll make it back before the genin exams. Those boring lectures will drive me insane. Naruto_, and I cannot stand another year of it, especially when their history is mostly incorrect. You and me, both. You and me both. Hiromi-chan running off into the distance. The setting sun marked the start of Naruto's first great adventure. One that would mark the beginning of a much greater story. Man, that was a big-ass tiger, probably like twice the size of a normal one. Nar said to himself, completely lost after his fight with a pack of tigers that were unlucky enough to come face to face with an even more hungry Uzumaki Nar who easily took them apart one by one and had lunch. He arrived at a pathway and decided to take the route, hoping that it would take him back to Konoha. And let it not be said that Naruto was terrible at directions in his youth. Inside his mind, an amused Hiromi was shaking her head as she desperately refrained from laughing her head off. Ha, ha ha, I knew you would got lost the moment you took a step out of the village. Ha ha, the amusement in her tone did not help the situation one bit as Nar could only pout in the face of the certain truth. Well, if you knew, why didn't you say anything? To see your cute pout, that's why. And so that reply started what came to be known as Nar and Hiromi's first ever lovers. Spat for the next few minutes as Nar completely forgot about where fate was taking him next. 15 minutes later and Nar came to one decisive conclusion. He needed a map and something to eat because for a still growing boy of 13, 12 cooked tigers size large were just not enough to sat his hunger. Seriously, he needed ramen. If only he didn't ignore the tingling of his ramen senses earlier, he would still be at home eating a Yame's delicious bowls of ramen and able to cook something up for dinner. Yes, contrary to Ayame's belief, Naruto learned how to cook, something that easily became his favorite pastime. She was skeptical at first, but one does not live alone without learning a few neat house tricks. This was proven when she came to his house one day and accepted his invitation to eat his homemade bento. She was left moaning with each bite as he took the time to read and clean the apartment alongside his shadow clones. Her extremely loud moans, however, were heard by a lot of people who were passing through, which started a lot of inaccurate adult-themed rumors, which eventually reached the ears of his adult fangirls who became extremely eager to invite him over to their house the next following days. After following the dirt road a bit, he started to notice the obvious change in atmosphere. Is it just me or are things getting a whole lot foggier? Hearing the sound of metals colliding, his honed instincts kicked in, causing him to jump into a nearby bush to hide. There's a fight somewhere, but where? Letting his curiosity get the better of him, he decided to hide in the shadows as he approached the nearby battle. As he came closer, several figures fighting and leaping around the site were starting to become more visible. Not wanting to risk the chance of nearby ambushers spotting him, he decided to use Earth style, hiding like a mole to sniff out the battlefield in order to make sure no one would get the drop on him. Eventually, he spotted one person wearing a mask on a nearby tree using a low-level Glen Jutsu to hide himself. Please, what a noob. Gigi could produce a better genjutsu in his sleep. Using his affinity to wood, he grew a sleeping powder plant which quickly grew as its subtlety reached up the tree onto the branch and slowly approached the unsuspecting assassin. Gotcha. Release the sleeping powder. The bud on top of the tall vine opened up as 12 pink leaves separated in order allow the contained spore to roam around the air as it reached the assassin who was still unaware of the plant behind her. Eventually, realizing something was wrong with her immune systems and that she was quickly becoming drowsy, he turned around to see the humongous plant behind her only 2 fall of the branch at that exact moment. Before she could make collision with the ground, Nar popped out of the ground to catch her and gently placed her on the floor. How? I didn't even realize what was that. Jusu forgi viabuza sama. I failed. Before the plan could commence. All right, that should do it. Now, time to see what the commotion is all about. Hiding both himself and what he figured to be a female nin, he tried his best to look through the really thick mist. Channeling some chakra to his eyes, he was able to gain a better view of the battle. On top of the water was a tall male adult with a big ass sword on his back who had just killed an adult female nin inside a water bubble due to lack of oxygen, while a duplicate of himself, presumably a clone, was off fighting a group of ninja that were surrounding an old man wearing a bamboo-tinted hat, a towel around his neck, and a pair of old glasses. It looks like the guy carrying that big ass sword has the edge over this battle considering the panic on the group of ninjas' faces. And seriously, what's with that sword? Conspicuous much. But that killer intent. Woo, that's not something to joke about. He's dangerous. Extremely dangerous. The question is, should I help the bigger group? They look like they need it. Or should I help the outnumbered dude? Too early to tell whose purposes are more favorable to me. Or should I just be lazy and help the side that's winning? The sword wielder, of course. Decisions. Nar, be careful around the one with the big sword. Judging by the make of that sword, I would say that he's one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Wait, Kuromi-chan, you mean that guy over there is one of Kurdikker's 7 greatest swordsmen? Holy crap, I know I was bored today. But seriously, I just had to wish for something to happen today, and God sends me someone with a reputation like that. Thank you, God. I now officially believe in you. Damn, why didn't I pray to you sooner? You know, Nar, I think that you're the only child in Konoha who would become eager at the prospect of facing someone like that. Most children would underscore their pants. He thanks for the compliment, Kuromi-chan. That was a compliment, right? I don't know, you tell me. I think it was a mix between me complimenting your bravery and me worrying for your sanity. Hey, I'm as sane as any other 13-year-old can be, who contains a second entity within his mind who whispers to him during bedtime about role-playing fantasies every night. Teehee, I don't know what you're talking about, Naruto-kun. Shush. Getting off topic. Here. Have to focus. Well, guess I know now who I want to help. I mean, it's not every day that one gets to face one of M's 7 ninja swordsmen. Leaping out of the bush, he made way to the group of chunin who were being chopped down one by one like pigs to a slaughter. In the face of that monster, the only thing the hired group of nin could do were scream as they waited for that inevitable tear of muscles, the drop of blood, and that agonizing last cry of death. One by one, as if he was cutting through butter, each nin fell down completely, chopped in half as they were torn down limb by limb. Eventually, as the swordsman finally tore down the last of the shinobi, as his sword finally hovered above the terrified old man, he heard one whisper from the assassin. Sorry, old man, but I have to do this. No hard feelings, he whispered as he swung his sword down. As the sword closed in on his body, the man could only shut his eyes in the face of death, knowing it was too late to dodge the killing blow. I'm sorry, everyone. Forgive your foolish grandfather. Inari. He could only whisper in time as the blade came only inches away from his head. But nothing happened. Not the year of muscle, not the drop of blood, not the cry of immense agony, pain, and finally death. No, none of that happened except for The sound of boom. Blown away by some kind of powerful attack that was so not a sword slash, he opened his eyes as he fell down a couple of meters away from his previous spot. Instead of a tall, terrifying demon under the guise of a human, he saw a blonde-haired child, and with a figure like that, he was probably 16 to 17 years old. But what was most noticeable was his left fist, which was currently impaled on the back of the assassin's head, smashed against the ground, causing a crater full of spider cracks with slabs of earth popping out everywhere within a 10 meters radius. What massive strength. Who is this kid? Damn, I got to remember how to control my chakra output. Now changing into water after being smashed into the ground. Nar lifted his fist as he turned around to the stunned old man. Hey, you all right, old man? Grinning widely at his funny expression. Shocked, the old man could only nod at the boy's question, unable to form a coherent, intelligent reply. Now that he knew that the old man was safe, he turned around, amazed that the assassin didn't take that opportunity to strike while his back was turned to him. That was stupid of both of them. Rule 1 in the battlefield states that you don't turn your back on the enemy. If Gigi saw this, he would be lecturing the boy non-stop. Lucky break for me, I guess. Hey, big man with that big ass sword. Why don't you pick on someone your own size? He grinned at the missing nin as he was snapped out of his temporary shock. Happy at his awesome appearance, he praised himself mentally, which wasn't unheard by Kuromi, who could only giggle at HI childish antics. Who the hell are you, kid? I'm Manners, dude. You don't ask for someone's name without introducing your own. But I can take a good guess now that I've seen you without all the mist. Mr. Zabuza Mimochi, you're a pretty famous missing nin. Man, am I glad that I read through the whole bingo book. When the hell did the mist clear this chakra in the atmosphere? Don't tell me that the kid dispelled my mist by releasing the same amount of chakra throughout the air. Who is this kid? If you're wondering who I am, well, I'm still a genin in training, so I guess I can break a few guidelines. Okay, listen, well, because this is the last name you'll ever hear. Stepping forward as if he needed room to do something magnanimous. I am Konoha's greatest future, Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki. He's an Uzumaki, but I thought. She said that she and her friend were the last remaining survivors, but he doesn't have their signature red hair. And how the hell can my clone be beaten by a kid who's still in his training pants? Smirking even wider at the man's stunned look, he beamed with overconfidence. Hey, he's so struck by my awesomeness that he's speechless. Don't grow a big head. I don't know why, but his chakra flow became chaotic when he heard your surname. I don't know why, but you should take this chance and attack him now while he's still in shock. Seriously, all I had to do was say my name, and I've already got a good chance at beating an upper Jonin level shinobi. Hell yeah, screw secrecy. I should pronounce my name before every battle. Lols. Getting a running start on the Jonin, he took in a deep breath, sucked in a whole lot of air, and then shot out a highly compressed ball of air while shouting wind style. Drilling air bullet. Snapped out of his daze, he quickly countered with water style. Water dragon bullet jutsu. Large amounts of water from the lake formed into a giant water dragon as it shot towards the air bullet. As both jutsu collided, the water dragon exploded and splashed right onto the dry ground, soaking Nar as he was temporarily distracted by the splash of water. Using that moment of distraction, Zabuza jumped out of the water towards Nar and swung his sword from the left. Just in the nick of time, Naruto ducked underneath the slash and somersaulted forward to use his upward feet to kick the man's left elbow, effectively stopping the man from swinging his sword once again as they competed in strength to see who would back away first with his free arm to do one-handed seals. He can do one-handed seals as well. He's probably as talented as Haku. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu. Leaping back. To avoid the massive fireball aimed towards him, he swung his blade overhead and cut the fireball into two. Forced back into the water, the man once again had the territorial advantage. He once again started to form the seals for the water-style water dragon bullet jutsu. Noticing that he too was on the water and had learned that you do not mess with a water specialist who's had 20-some years to practice on his own turf, he decided to test out his theory about that hiding nin and hopefully gain some psychological advantage. Hey Zabuza, next time you assign a nin to ambush someone, tell them to hide in a less conspicuous spot than on top of a branch. No, he's already gotten to Haku. Noticing the slight pause in hand seals, Nar decided to also form the seals for the same jutsu in which he correctly assumed was the water dragon bullet jutsu. Shock now turned into pure rage at what he incorrectly assumed to be the death of his adopted child. He resumed the hand seals for his jutsu with even greater speed, but not enough to surpass that of Naruto's, who went through hand seals at the same speed in which he went through ramen, which meant only one thing. Zabuza was water style. Water dragon bullet jutsu. Water style. Water dragon bullet jutsu. After Nar had formed a water dragon of his own, only a few seconds afterwards did Zabuza create his. As both dragons clashed in a test of power near Zabuza's side of the battle, he was sent flying back through the water. Shaken off by the huge explosion of the water which caused huge ripples throughout the lake. Recovering his stance, he started to make the seals for his greatest water style technique. Too angry to think about the fact that Nar had just copied his jutsu at a faster rate. Far too angry to calm himself down. But Nar saw this and started to mimic his seals only at a much faster pace, smirking at the great success of his previous taunt, not expecting it to work on the experienced killer. He didn't think my taunt would work. The rate in which he's making those seals are a lot slower than before. Water style. Great W style. Great waterfall jutsu. As huge surges of water surrounded both of them in circles, it surged upwards into the air as it screamed down towards the opponent as if two huge waves were sweeping across the battlefield. But once again, the techniques clashed once more near Zabuza's side. Having not expected for one of his greatest water-type techniques to be countered so easily by a mere boy, a revelation had finally dawned upon him. Don't tell me that he's copying my moves. That's right. But how? Only Uchihas and Kakashi, the copycat ninja, are capable of that feat. Not believing for a second that the boy had the sharing, the boy said so himself that he wasn't an Uchiha. Me when you have an arsenal full of jutsu of all 5 affinities and a Godspeed reaction time of 0.1 seconds, then anything is possible. Now eat. This wind style. Great breakthrough. Sucking in a whole lot of air, he shot out a huge gust of wind, which acted more like an extremely powerful cannon blast of wind, blowing away all the lake water towards the direction of Zabuza, who was busy trying to overpower Naruto's waterfall technique with his own. By the time he realized it was too late, the blast of wind was already empowering the enemy's water jutsu, which was starting to quickly overpower his own. Damn, this kid is too good. Underestimated him far too much. He mentally thought as he experienced the full brunt of the combined water jutsus as it swept him under the lake water and off to The other side of the lake. Wait, did I seriously just beat a legendary Jonin of his caliber just like that? Narutkin, are you there? What's happened to you, Narun? I think he's brain dead. Hayomi-chan, are you sure he's the real Zabuza? Yep. Positive. Why? Oh, no reason. It's just that the books made him out to be a freaking badass. Oh, I've read manga and let me tell you, people don't face guys like that until halfway throughout the series at least. And even then, they barely win. Mentally face-palming. At that childish reply, she could only giggle once again in sheer amusement. She seemed to be doing that a lot ever since they shared a mental connection. He really was amusing to be around. Oh, Narutkin, please be serious. The only reason you were able to beat him was because he underestimated you. But all's fair in war, so it doesn't really matter. Just don't let this victory get to your head. Now go check on his state. He'll likely gain consciousness in the next few minutes. All right, Hiromi-chan. What would I do without you? Oh, I don't know. Maybe challenge a Jew one day and guide you to an overdose of overconfidence. Prepared to shunshin towards the unconscious Zabuza, he sensed 3 small objects rapidly making way towards him. Sensing the attack just in the nick of time, he moved his head to the right, just barely dodging one of 3 sunbombs. Turning around, he saw a familiar nin run towards him, carrying 3 sunbi on each hand. I will not allow you to kill Zabuza-sama, she said in a matter-of-fact tone, throwing all 6 sunbon towards him only to miss once again as he too started running towards her. Hey miss, I think you got the wrong idea here. I wasn't going to kill him. Just making sure if he's all right. That does not change the fact that you are the apparent enemy. Well, what do you know? Guess you're right about that. As they were only meters away from each other, they immediately engaged in a taijutsu fight. Jumping up, he tried to axe kick her only for Haku to back away at the last second, countering with water style, rising water slicer. Instinctively jumping to the right of the uprising jet of water. He only noticed at the last second that the moment his foot made contact with the surface water, it was immediately encased in ice. Shida Hyodin user. Stuck temporarily. This allowed Haku to prepare her next move. Certain kill ice spears. Fire style. Great dragon fire jutsu as huge shards of ice came towards Nar. Massive, dragon head-shaped fireballs shot out of his mouth. 3 in total. The first quickly melting the ice shards as the second and third made way towards Haku, who leapt out of the way successfully and did so again for the third, only this time she was forced to transform the water into ice in order to shield her. The ice, however, melted almost instantaneously the moment the fireball made contact with it, but allowed enough time for Haku to jump out of their way. Such intensity. This is the first time that my ice has ever been melted by a fire jutsu. This boy is dangerous. But, wait, his jutsu. He's used fire, water, wind, and that plant earlier. I've never seen anything like that. It must be some sort of earth jutsu. That's 4 affinities. Unless he has lightning as well. Confirming her suspicions, Naruto placed his palm on the water surface as he charged lightning chakra throughout the entire lake. Quickly, counter by freezing the water as surges of lightning made its way through the water towards Haku. Likewise, a platform of ice formed under Haku's feet as it spread out towards the lightning streams. Making contact, the ice nullified the lightning, pathway, effectively stopping both affinities from affecting the lake any further. I see. You've figured it out. That's right. I have all 5 affinities as you can see here. Dot dot dot. No reply. Yesish, the silent type. Huh, oh well, no matter. You'll answer my questions later after I've beaten the crap out of you. His fire jutsus can easily melt my ice, which means that using demonic mirroring ice crystals won't be of much help. No choice then. I must carry Zabuza-sama and make a tactical retreat. Hopefully, she will know what to do. Leaping backwards in order to retrieve the unconscious Zabuza, she built up several high-density walls of ice in hopes that it would slow him down for at least a few seconds. That would give her enough time to retreat along with Zabuza. She's running away. I have to stop her. Don't worry about it, Naruto by the time you get past the ice, she would have already gotten away. She's pretty fast, and I didn't sense any killing intent during your battle, so you should be safe. Your time, however, would be better spent by making sure that the old man is safe. You're right. I'll deal with them later if they show up again, which they probably will. Giving up on the idea of pursuing the assassins, Hiromi was the reasonable voice in his head, and persuaded him to check up on the old man. Hey, old man, you all right there? Walking up to the now recovered old man, he checked for any other survivors, but found none other than the old man. Yes, thanks to you, young lad, the name's Suna. I'm a construction worker from the land of waves. Utsumaki nar Konas. Future Hokage. Anyway, thanks for your help, kid. If it wasn't for you, I would already be chopped in half. You're really strong for a kid your age. A lot stronger than my hired help. Well, I don't know about that, but sure, I guess. Modest. Well, I'm not sure whether you would be interested or not, but do you think I could hire your services? I'm in current need of some assistance for back home, but as you can see here, my help has kind of been massacred. I'm taking. The silence means no, not at all. It's just that back home, Gigi would never let me go on ninja missions. Heck, I'm not even an official ninja yet. So, this is kind of my first mission. Seriously. Heck, you're freaking strong for a 16-year-old kid. Oh no. Here's another one. What's wrong? I'm 12. What? Can you run that by me again? I think I misheard. I'm 12. Holy _ Well, sorry, lad. Your figure and height kind of makes you look older. Yeah, I get that a lot back home. So, does that change anything? Huh, what do you mean? 12 years old, a lot of people back home usually stop children who aren't ninja from facing danger. Me, I'm just looking for strong people. In the real world, age doesn't really matter. Now, that's more like it. If only more people were like you, I'd be doing missions every day by now. Trust me, Naruto, you're not going to be doing the tough missions until you're John. At the level you are. Seriously. Yep. Genins and Chunins have the really easy missions and there are only 2 exams for each promotion every year. So even after you become Jonin, you're going to have to wait at least 2 years before you can do a rank missions on a daily basis. There is however a chance to skip the Chunin promotion if you really impress the examiners. Or do something really impressive in your career like save the world or a country from a Beiju. But that's not going to happen in peacetime. Well, that just sucks. Hardcore. Why don't we go to my house? It's not far from here. Just have to cross the lake, go past a swamp, and we'll be there. I'll tell you my problem on the way. Sure. Lead the way to Zuna Gigi. So, basically, you've got a power-hungry, dirty old _ that's taken over your country, and you want someone to deal with him. That's all right. Well, that was a really simplistic description, but yeah, but he's got an army behind him. Literally, no matter how many of our hired ninjas we had sent, their heads had all come back on top of a wooden spike. And as a result, he had killed one civilian for every ninja we had sent to kill him. Eventually, most of us gave up and just continued to live in poverty under a greedy tyrant. So, what made you decide to hire the group? From before, Zabuza made short work of them. They killed my son. Oh, I'm sorry. Now, regretting that he had even asked. Oh, don't worry about it, boy. You're not the one who killed my son. It was that scum. Gato. So, where exactly are we going again? Oh, yeah, I thought you could get some rest at my home before I can continue building the bridge. It would do us some good to be at full strength if God's hired thugs show up again. You're right. Any relatives I should be aware of when we get there? Tsunami is probably going to be about you being my bodyguard and Inari. Well, you'll understand when he talks to you. Turning his head to the other side, the builder had a thoughtful yet lonely gaze in his eyes. He was probably thinking about his grandson. It must have been incredibly heartbreaking for the boy to lose his stepfather. Must have made him a bit antisocial, was Naruto's last thought as the silence lingered on for the remainder of their journey. It was a pain to not have some experienced advice right when he needed it the most. This was literally his first mission, and it wasn't even an official mission. So, of course, he was nervous as hell, although he had enough composure to not show it as to not lower the older man's trust in him. As he was really bored during the walk, he would remember his training. Kakashi Sensei's advanced Enjutsu and elemental training. Gai Sensei's youthful taijutsu training. Hayate Sensei's kenjutsu training. Saruto Jig's bojutsu training and the occasional spars between him, Shui, and Itachi. It was a really useful way to calm his anxieties. Not to mention, there was absolutely nothing else to do. Nar, can I talk with you for a few minutes privately? Of course. Wouldn't want the old man to think you're crazy. Can't this wait until we get to Tazuna-san's home? I mean, I'm kind of busy. Walking here and going into my subconsciousness means I would just collapse in the middle of the road. Don't worry. I'll control your body for you while we walk. And when we arrive or anything happens, then you'll snap back to reality. Now, hurry up and enter my domain. Okay, then. So, Hiromi-chan, what do you need to talk about? Many. Do I really need a reason to have a nice chat with my favorite human? Pouting, Nar could not resist the cuteness of such an expression as he felt the softness of those irresistible that clung onto him as she wrapped her arms around him and dragged him onto a bed that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. As much as I enjoy the feeling of your rubbing against my chest, is there a reason why you called me to your domain? You should turn back now. I fear that you are out of your league for this one. At Hiromi's vague warning, Nar adopted a serious expression. Whenever she gave him an occasional warning, it's usually correct. How so? Call it woman's intuition. Vague. Much. Hiromi-chan. I mean, I beat Zabuza pretty easily. And come on, how many people nearby could possibly be stronger than him? That was you being lucky. If he took you more seriously, I dare say that not even you could win unscathed. Then I'll just have to get more serious next time. Itachi was a lot tougher to fight than Zabuza and we're pretty much even in spars. No doubt you will, but I am concerned about this Godto character. He sounds like a very wealthy businessman. That's an understatement, Hiromi-chan. He's the richest freaking shrimp in the world. Then all the more reason to keep your guard up. He most likely has more ninja like that. Zabuza, if not stronger, considering his status. Good point. But hey, I knew it was a good decision to ditch Konoha today. It hasn't even been 10 hours and I'm already having fun. That's good and all, but I fear that you do not fully understand the gravity of the situation. You just attacked a hired assassin of the richest man in the world. Yes. So, Sai, let me make it easier for you to understand. Even if Naruto was a strong boy, he could be really clueless sometimes. What do you need to hire people like that? Zabuza. Money. Correct. Now, let's retrace back to what Kazuna said. Who is his boss? Godto, and what is he best known for? Being the richest man in the world, which means suddenly an image of a 100A rank nin ganging up on him popped up, causing the young boy to slightly shiver in fright. Well, Nar, I know you enjoy a good fight. It's in your blood, but don't get too overconfident. Fighting with Itachi may be a good confidence boost and he's a talented shinobi, but there's a load of a difference between a spar and a real fight. Not to mention, Itachi isn't the strongest shinobi in the world. There is bound to be tons of people stronger than him. Fight seriously. Don't underestimate opponents and be a badass while kicking everyone's got it. Anything else? Hiromi-chan, you don't care, do you? Which earned a silly wide grin from the boy. Not in the slightest. Chihi, I see. My worries were unfounded. Your confidence was always one of your most charming qualities. Good to know. As if afraid that he would suddenly lose the comfort and warmth that her body provided, he hugged her even tighter than usual as he asked her in a pleading tone. Hiromi-chan, can we stay like this for a while? You may wake me up if anything happens. Hiromi-chan snuggling his head between her, he dozed off almost immediately, completely confident that he could no longer hear her. She nuzzled her cheek against his as she sensually whispered in his ear, "We'll be together forever. But for now, Nar, show me your worth. Show me just how special you really are." Right on, Q, as if he could hear her whisper. He shook his head once between her, eyes closed and all, and smiled even wider. In response, that cute unconscious gesture, however, earned a small giggle from the demon as she protectively swung her arms around the boy. Sweet dreams. Nar sitting in a corner of the room, Haku silently watched over her resting master. She was glad that they made it out of the battle with all limbs attached. But that only prompted her to ask one question. Why did he spare me? Surely he had time to kill me, then go on to fight Zabuza-sama. But before her mind could come up with a logical answer, God and two of his henchmen abruptly came in loud and all. The smack of the door caused the injured swordsman to wake up. Obviously in a foul mood, of course, due to that loud entrance. Ha, well, look at the might Zabuza now. Not so tough now, are you? When I hired you, I heard that you were one of the best there is, but you couldn't even kill one builder. How pathetic. Zabuza chose not to reply at the midget's mockery of his skills, but it was obvious that his foul mood intensified. The mere thought of being so badly by a boy no less was humiliating. Not to mention he had just woken up only to listen to that shrimp first thing after. If he didn't know the whereabouts of the target, then he would have just cut him up right here and now. His silence, however, only fueled the midget's ego as well as his ire. Walking towards the bed, he brought out his hand to grab Zabuza by his neck, but stopped and yelped when his wrist was caught by something. Don't you dare touch Zabuza-sama with your filthy hands. Haku, drawing the line at someone who would dare try to harm her master. stood up and ran towards the unsuspecting Godto and caught his wrist in a stronghold. The two guards behind them immediately went for their swords only to find themselves grasping at nothing. In a heartbeat, Haku had sunshined right in front of the pair, holding their sword only inches away from slitting their throats. I'd advise you boys not to interrupt. Otherwise, I might be forced to do something I really don't want to do. Gulping in fear, the two could only sweat profusely as Godto made his way out of the room in blind rage, albeit in a more nervous state than his bodyguards. Just don't fail me again. You hear me? Walking out of the room. It was unknown to the pair of assassins, but God was literally peeing his pants. Well, that was amusing. Turning their attention back to the entrance. A tall, muscular, pale green-skinned, the Wakia Seihi's pale green man was leaning against the door, flashing an amused smirk, allowing his sharp teeth and gills to be seen. Kiss-sama, I was not aware that you had came back. Was the search successful? No, Aloy is still scouting for it, but so far, there's no luck. Her chakra signature is completely concealed. Damn it, that Gato. When we find her, I'm going to rip his guts out. The Rebel Alliance is crumbling, and here we are still looking for breadcrumbs. It can't be helped. No one is as charismatic as her, and the Uzumaki lady refuses to take the position as leader. Speaking of Utsuaki, I met a boy today who claimed he was an Uzumaki as well. With a glint in his eye, Kisame was a bit shocked that another survivor of that famous clan appeared. Seriously. Yeah, but I'm still skeptical about it. He lacks their trademark red hair. Not to mention, he didn't use any pure chakra attacks or Fujutsu that they're so famed for. So, how come you're lazing about in bed right now when you could be helping with the search? And where did you get those injuries? Looking at Zabuza's upper body, which was no longer covered by the bed sheet, it was covered with bandages. It was the boy. This reluctant response made Kizum laugh out like a madman. Seriously, you got your handed to you by a genin. No wonder. God was complaining. Zabuza was about to say that the boy wasn't even a genin, but refrained from doing so after a second thought. His reputation would crumble if everyone back home heard that someone still in his training pants could beat one of the famed 7 swordmen of the mist. Ha ha ha. Panting tiredly now, he wiped the tears from his eyes, but his grin was still plastered on his face. Thanks for the laughs. Man, I want to meet this kid now. Don't underestimate him. He's pretty good. The moment I get out of these bandages, I'm going to find him and send him back home. In a body bag. Who says we should kill him? Why not ask him for help? And while we're at it, ask Uzumaki to confirm the boy's lineage. HN replying with the Uchiha clan's signature grunt, Haku chose this particular moment to speak up. Why not? Zabuza-sama, we could use the extra help. Fine, but I'm not the one that's going to do the convincing. Looking over at Haku, he continued, Haku, since you're so willing, you do it. Yes. Zabuza-sama, bowing to both swordsmen, Haku proceeded with her new mission to search for the boy. As soon as they were alone, the atmosphere became tense. Zabuza broke the silence first. 3 more days. That's all the time we have left. I heard from my spies that Yagura is planning to attack HQ. And without a leader, morale is low. It's bad enough that we're not there, too. Calm down, Zabuza. We'll find her. Hopefully, she's still safe. Is it true that God is selling bloodline users as slaves? Yep. It adds up and it explains why our leader was captured instead of killed. God probably made a deal with Yagura to spare some bloodline users for his business in exchange for supplying him with weapons, food, and manpower. Damn that underscore, he'll pay for this. He will in due time. Knock knock. The pair of contrasting males had arrived at Tuna's house, knocking on the door. It took only a few seconds before someone opened it. Before him, a pretty dark-haired woman who was probably in her 20s looked at them suspiciously before turning towards the old man she had recognized as Suna. Now smiling a bit, she opened the door completely and made way for both of them. Welcome back, father. It's good to be back, Tsunami. Who is this? I thought you went out to hire several shinobi instead of just one. Oh well, they kind of died and this boy here happened to pass by at the time, so he saved me. Looking towards Naruto's direction, she scanned his entire body as if questioning the validity of Suna's explanation. As her eyes made way to his chest, she blushed profusely since it was visible since Naruto only wore an open dark orange jacket with jet black on the upper shoulder areas. It was a lot more convenient to wear during training, feeling the cold wind brush up against his slim, muscular chest, and it didn't hurt when it attracted a lot of blushing women back home whenever they saw his chest. Her reaction was pretty normal. Nice to meet you, Tsunami-san. Flashing a wide smile, he brought out his hand for a handshake, which Tsunami nervously took. Nice to meet you. The names. Naru Uzumaki. It was extremely amusing that a 12-year-old boy such as himself could reduce a woman in her mid-20s to a blushing mess, exaggerating much. Narkin, thank you for saving my father. Bowing deeply, Nar could only wave his hands in response. He was not expecting such a humble action. Oh, no need to thank me. Truthfully, he couldn't care less about saving anyone. He just wanted a good fight. And protecting an old man from a rich-ass underscore, who would hire dozens of professional missing nin sounded fun. Never mind the odds of surviving. Well, regardless, come in. Thank you. Behind them, Suna was oblivious to the pink hue on his daughter's cheeks due to being busy mentally sighing in relief. Thank God she doesn't seem to realize this boy is 12. But who could blame her? His build and height makes him look like a freaking 16 to 17-year-old exercise jock. And this is really, really good cooking. How do you make it? It was even comparable to his own. Oh, Nar, you tease. It was nothing really. It's been 3 hours since Suna and Naruto had arrived at his house, bored out of his mind. He was about to go training until Tsunami came up to him and thanked him again. From there, they conversed a lot. She was in a lot of ways like a Yame except she had a more mature presence. The random momentarily sad glimpse in her eyes spoke wonders about her life. Even after he had already heard about her situation from Suna, it was something he could relate to in certain aspects. To be alone but be unable to let out the tears. The emotion in fear of looking weak in front of others. His reason, however, was so that the tears would not encourage the brutal beatings of Konoha's citizens, while hers was so that she would not discourage her son, her father, her family, which was already so fragile from the look of her son, Inari. But nonetheless, they had both enjoyed each other's company. Even their relationship was similar to that of his relation to Ayame, except he had no trouble bonding with Tsunami within a span of 3 hours while it took several years with Ayame. Seriously, can I have the recipe? Originally, he would say something like, you'd make a good wife. But considering the mental scar of her husband dying was still fresh, he deemed it wise not to make any husband-wife remarks and settled for this compliment. Sure, it's the least I could do for you. Haha, thanks. Why? Hearing Inari mutter something the first time since he had arrived, he turned his head immediately. In mocking shock, grasping both cheeks with his palm as if to emphasize his surprise. He was well aware that Inari didn't use to be all antisocial. Why even bother coming here? You're just going to fail like all the others. Oh, really? Ow. It was amusing how pitiful this kid could be. A few days of losing someone precious to him, and he already thinks he knows everything about pain, about loneliness. Go home. Nobody needs you. You just cause God to kill more people. And how exactly is living in poverty and constant fear of being unable to survive another day better than dying? Nar liked to think he was a patient man, but seriously, someone needed to smack some sense into the boy before he becomes a dark, moody brat who could only think of vengeance. You don't know anything. You don't know anything about pain. He ignored the religion, but when the boy mentioned something about pain, he immediately stood over the boy, looking down on him with an intimidating glare. Do enlighten me then. It was obvious that Inari was scared, but to Naruto's amusement, he didn't completely back down. You don't know anything about losing a loved one. Just go back to where you came from. Inari, now listen here, young man. However, she was interrupted by the hand in front of her. Naruto's hand, to be specific. No, he needs this. Libby, shut up, brat. It was full of menace that promised a world full of pain if one didn't listen to his command. It worked since Inari stopped his naive ranting, too intimidated to continue. It's pitiful how naive you are. Forgetting his fear, the boy looked angry at this remark, but before he could open his mouth, he was held by his collar and his feet took off the ground as he came closer towards Nar until they were face to face. You think you're the only who knows what's it like to suffer. You think you know what's it like to be alone. Have you even considered how much pain your mother must be feeling? How much pain your grandfather is feeling? In your delusion, you forgot that you still have loved ones. In your pitiful despair, you forgot that you had people who still care for you, who still feed you, who still dresses you, who still shelters you. I've seen the state of your village. I've seen the people, children even, who lie on the street struggling to survive, struggling to get their next meal. But here in your home, what those people out there don't have, you have in abundance, provided to you for free while they search through the rubbish desperately. So no, you have no right to brag about your suffering as if it's a trophy. Because as far as I'm concerned, compared to the others, you're living in luxury. Slamming the boy against the ground, Nar made his way towards the door, while Inari went up the stairs crying. Tsunami, who was watching the entire spectacle, was torn between comforting Inari or talking to Nar. In the end, she decided to comfort Inari later and talk to Nar first. Naruto_, where are you going? Before exiting the house, he turned towards Tsunami and gave her a warm, comforting smile. Don't worry, I'll just be off training for a bit. But it's getting dark. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Just leave Inari alone for a while. He needs to soak it in that he's not the only who's suffering from God's tyranny. Sensing the true meaning behind her frown, he reassured her before leaving. Don't worry, we'll have a private talk later. Nodding in response, Naruto now left the house. Some distance away from Suna's house, Kuromi decided to speak up. Now, are you okay, Nar? Yeah, it's just that this place brought up a few memories. That's not the only reason, is it? That Inari boy, it's infuriating how he could just ignore Tsunami-chan like that. If it was me, I would use all the help I could get. It's infuriating that he would ignore something that I've been craving for 6 years. Someone to love me, and he just tosses it away like nothing. Not everyone is as strong-willed as you. They can't exactly be positive 24/7 after something traumatic happens. And to make up for that weakness, they decide to lock their hearts away from others. Quote. Quote. What is it, Nar? I can sense the presence of that masked girl from before. Focusing a bit more, she could sense it as well. All right, but we're going to talk about this later. Okay, what do you want? Seeing as you're so desperate to come near Tuna-san's house all alone. Initially shocked that she was spotted, it took only a few moments to regain her composure and leap down behind the blonde boy. Actually, in all honesty, I came here looking for your help. Oh, I thought your job was simply to kill the builders. In case you haven't noticed, I'm kind of opposing you. No, although we cannot tell you what our real mission is, I assure you our end goal is not to kill Tuzuna-san. In fact, they actually coincide with his own. Now, he was really confused because not 5 hours ago, the pair of assassins had just tried to kill the old man. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Tuna's goal isn't to get killed. Waving her hand repeatedly in denial, she corrected his misconceptions. No, I apologize for the fact that my master went off the deep end and tried to kill Suna, but we needed to do that as to not arouse our employer's suspicion. You mean God's suspicion? What the hell are you talking about? It's not safe to talk in such an open space. Wait a few seconds. Forming a closed ice dome around the pair. It ensured that no outsiders could hear the conversation. We are undercover agents sent from Kiri's rebel alliance to retrieve a very important person who we believe is being held captive by God. There was no point beating around the bush. So, she decided to come out with the blunt truth. Quote. Holy crap, are you okay? Sign me up. What, can you repeat that please? She was genuinely confused now. Usually people took a couple of hours before they made a decision and she would leave and then come back. She honestly wasn't expecting him to answer so fast, especially when it looked like he was going against him. I said, I'm joining up. You caught me at the worst possible time tonight, but after hearing this, I'm pumped. Woohoo. This is like some Mission Impossible crap where we go up against impossible odds, sneak in a fortress full of somewhat professional killers with only 5 or so people on our side, and then kick some villainous. Now, wait, before you say anything, let me make a checklist. Impossible odds. She gave a nod. Check. Betrayal. She gave a nod. Check. Drama. She was a bit hesitant about this one, but just nodded for the heck of it. Check. Damsel in distress. Nod. Although she was a bit ticked off about the stereotypical question about helpless females. Check. Annoying villain that deserves a good kicking. She nodded instantly. Gato was an annoying prick. Check. 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 In check. Looking at the checklist which he somehow retrieved out of nowhere, he drooled at the prospects of this next adventure, but remembered Suna and Tsunami before he hastily decided to follow Haku back to her base. Now wait a minute. If I join you, what happens to Suna and his family? Will you stop targeting them? I would like to, but Nar mentally sighed. There was always a but somewhere. We haven't found God's slavery house, the place where he keeps most of his war captives. We believe that's where he's keeping our target. But until we know the location of said base, we have to follow God's orders in the meantime is to not attract suspicion. Since you've injured Zabuza for 2 days, we have that much time to look for the slave house before